Welcome to the RVA Returners Podcast, your weekly source for all things Final Fantasy TCG.
But dude, I'm not gonna lie, man. My allergies have been kicking my ass this morning. It has been a 10-0 matchup, that's for sure.
Yeah, mine haven't kicked in yet, so.
Yeah, it hasn't been great. I just stay congested. I sound like an old woman. But Adam, that's neither here nor there. But you know what is here? Episode 51 of the RVA Returners Podcast. Guys, we're back. I'm your host, Chris Adams. With me, as always, Adam Lane. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
It is another glorious Sunday morning here in RVA. Kind of a lighter week when it comes to things. We got some news. We got the Octagon Open that's happening. PAX East is going on right now, which the card game has a pretty solid presence there from what I keep hearing. And then I got to go play in some locals down at Jersey's. But, I want to just kind of briefly touch on when we get to it, just how the great job they're doing down there. But, then we're going to talk about, maybe some Tampa predictions and, what cards we've been enjoying here in Opus 8. But, we don't put the cart before the horse here on this program, Adam. We like to make sure we wrangle everything up. I don't know why we're doing like Pioneer and Wild West references here. You don't want to get dysentery. But there's a place where we like to wrangle everything up. All the information for everybody. There's somewhere where they can just go and get all the stuff they need. Adam, do you have an inkling of where that might be?
Stumped, man.
You're all shoulders. But I'll go ahead and tell you. It's the news. All right, so first headline is I believe this is the first North American singles Octagon Open. Is that correct?
Yeah. The other ones have been
teams
Europe. Well, it's been Europe time. So most of the players are from Europe in those ones. I mean,
okay,
there are Americans and Canadians and stuff playing, but we're kind of operating on their time. So you kind of have to play at weird times. Whereas this is the first one. I think they've actually separated them now to the point where EU can't play in ours and we can't play in theirs. So this is the first one that's actually separate.
Okay, cool. Well, I know you're playing with that and playing in that, and I think everybody else is. I feel like I'm the only one alive who's not playing in it, but that's a personal choice. I stare at a computer all day at work. I can't come home and play Octagon, but I just can't stare at a computer when I'm not at work. So, but Adam, I know you had your first match.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and just unload, man. Talk about just kind of the whole experience with it, how it works, and how your first match went and all that.
It wasn't that exciting. I mean, it was a mono Windmill. The guy was really cool. It was Alex Scott. I believe he does the Mystidia Post stuff, and so we were able to
shout
get
out
on.
To those guys.
Yeah, we were able to get on voice chat and play through Discord and Octagon, and so it was a pretty cool match. It was back and forth for a while. He was playing the Senna package. I was not. And he was able to get an early start on me, but I just kind of kept building backups and then dropped Y'shtola to Aerith, and then I was the first person to be able to cast Diabolos, and that was kind of it. After that,
that's how it happens.
But I mean, it was a good match. I think I won 7-4, but it was pretty close. He got his Yuri down first, and then I saw mine the next turn, and then I saw the Diabolos the turn after that. So. Yeah, it was
sounds real riveting.
Yeah, I mean it's mono wind, right? The deck's still really good. He was on some similar stuff to me. He had Nordstalin and all that stuff in there too, but he had Connie Senna and Leziford. Those were the two main differences in his deck that I didn't have. And I'm not sure if he was
bad cards. They're not bad cards.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if he was running the new Alexander, but I definitely was.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, the cool thing is, even though we both played mono win round 1, that doesn't mean we have to play round 2. So it's kind of you can't really keep track. There's no way they're going to be able to keep track of everybody's decks, so they kind of just allow people to switch decks in between rounds until you get to top 8, and then you're locked in.
Right. So overall, just kind of tell me how the experience has been as far as scheduling your match. What kind of process did you have to go through to get everything organized for your first round?
I mean, with Alex, it was easy. I just tagged him in a post, and he messaged me, and we were going to play on today, actually, but then he had 30 minutes free. I believe it was Friday, and he just asked me if I was free, and I hopped on, and we, 30 minutes done. So,
there it is.
I mean,
Easy peasy.
If you're both like kind of familiar with Octagon and you know like a little shortcuts and you can get on voice chat, it's fine. I mean, it's fine either way. Like, but it's still Octagon. I mean, it sucks if like people DC or anything like that, but it's kind of what you get when you start playing online. I'm used to stuff like that. I play Hearthstone for a while, so it doesn't bother me. I mean, obviously, I'd rather play in person, but it's a means.
Take what you can get.
It's a means for testing, honestly. Like, and if you're trying to test multiple decks, like you can kind of just go to FFTCG, export your deck as an Octagon deck, play it. And, oh, you find something you don't like, or you want to try a completely different deck, instead of having to re-sleeve everything, you can just do it again. So, like, if you're trying to test multiple decks, I actually think Octagon's really good. But it might be better than sleeving your real stuff up. I know, like, that sounds weird. But, like, I mean, obviously, if you're just testing one thing and you have, like, a package of cards that you're trying to test, then in person is just as fine, because you can just, you know, unsleeve and re-sleeve 10 cards or whatever, or have them all sleeved and just swap them in and out. But if you're trying to test, like, multiple different decks, unless you just have, like, extra cards of, like, unless you got, like, 12 Diabolos, right? Because if you're testing, like, 3 or 4 win decks, you're constantly moving them in and out, and it can get a little annoying. Unless you're proxying those or something. I mean, there are ways to make it easier for sure, but I feel like Octagon to an extent makes it pretty easy.
It is, and it's easy, and you can definitely like test outside of your normal play group, which is always really, really helpful to get more looks. And like I said, if I didn't stare at a computer all day at work, because I know when I wasn't, you know, working in an office, you know, we played Octagon actually quite a bit, but I can't do it. I'm an old man with old man eyes, and if I stare at a computer screen too long, I feel like they're just not working anymore. But I'm glad you got your first match in. How many rounds is it total?
I want to say it's 8.
Okay, 8 rounds with a top 8 cut.
It's either 8 or 16. I can't 100%.
Oh, okay, so this is a pretty lengthy event. I
mean, it's like 90 people. It might be 7 rounds.
Okay.
But it's like 90 people entered, you know, all across the states, and I believe Alex is from Canada, so you know, Canada too.
Nice.
So I mean, it's a lot of fun. You get to play people you don't normally get to play, and some people that you do.
Well, that's good. It's good, and it was free entry from what you were saying, and the prize payout's pretty legit.
Yeah, completely free. The only thing, like, rounds last 3 days, so you have 3 days to play your round out. The only thing I'm worried about is when we're in Tampa, I'm not sure how I'm going to play that round. But I'll have to figure it out.
Well, I'd be willing to bet a few people are going to have that same problem.
Yeah.
So, but that's all right, though. Like, you're having a lot of fun. I know I actually got a chance to go play at another event. I got to go down to Jersey's again and play in their Friday locals. That's one of the perks about having Friday off. I want to say this. I think that store, Jersey's, does a great job. I think Connor does a fantastic job of kind of wrangling that whole thing together. And obviously they got great crew down there that kind of helps keep it together. You know, Adam Duncan, Steven, Tanis, Danny, Josh, Trevor, like that whole group. If I didn't mention your name just now, that doesn't mean that I don't think you're a big part of that. But, you know, ever since Pocket closed, they've been really kind of searching for their identity. And I think Jersey's, and I know Spencer does a lot for Tower down in Virginia Beach. They've been doing really good work. But I got to go to their locals on Friday. I ended up winning. Ended up playing Fire Ice. That deck is just silly. And you know, it was a local, so everybody was. You had some people playing meta stuff, then you had some people like testing stuff for Tampa, which is coming up in a couple weeks. So, yeah, I think if you're going to Tampa and you can't beat Fire Ice, you should probably pick a different deck. Just throwing that out there. But it was a good time. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to those guys because they're doing really, really good work, and I think they've got a home base now, so we should probably see, or I'm pretty certain we're going to see the Villain Cups come back now that we've got a home base down there. So big shout outs to that. And the last piece of news is actually, well, not the last piece of news, but the bigger piece of news. PAX East is going on. And I know last year PAX East was going on when we were up in Boston for the Boston Crystal Cup. And there's been a lot of buzz with the TCG up there this time around.
Yeah, I want to say they had a booth about this size last year, too. There's just less people posting about it, I guess. But yeah, it seems like it's got a lot of foot traffic. I've been getting a lot of messages on Twitter from a couple of different people saying they're having a good time playing Gunslingers, and that's been kind of packed for people playing, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I know. Dan and PJ are up there. The Jersey boys, they're up there having a good time. They're playing some gunslingers and just kind of palling around.
Yeah, PJ sent me a picture of him taking a picture with Morito with his big dumpy shirt on.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that. I like to wonder what's going on through his head when he sees that shirt. Just like
apparently he commented on it. He said it was a cool shirt. I don't know. That's what I was told.
Yes.
So
yes, it's infectious. It's infectious. And I know apparently he's just been slamming the gunslingers up there. I want to see his Fire Ice 6 list because apparently there's like Cyan and General Leo and stuff in it, and I really want to see that.
I think
just
he's just all in on it. Yeah, I feel like with the gunslinger decks, like they just go all in. Like,
oh, they have to. They have to because they're meant to be fun.
Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah, but it's like, like when he plays Warrior of Light, it's just like I'm playing all of them. I don't care. It's kind of like that.
I'll stretch to get water in there. It doesn't matter. But no, it sounds like a really good time. It sounds like Final Fantasy. I know just in general they had the episode Arden. They showed that, and apparently they had it, and it like released this weekend as well, which I need to pick up. But I'm actually playing through 15 again, so I'll get to that when I get to it. But no, it looks like it was a good time. I'm glad to see the card game kind of coexisting with the rest of Square's product family. It's kind of nice to see that, and if it's getting foot traffic and people are curious about it, man, the more the merrier.
Yeah, for sure. I just hope that they do more stuff alongside their other stuff, like instead not just convention booths, but with the games when they release would be cool for me to see.
Absolutely. And one piece of news that I had actually forgotten, the that store champion picture that we saw that looks like it has a full art Alua as a part of it.
Well, yeah, so Cognazzo is the next promo.
Yeah, Cognazzo is the next promo. It's April's promo.
Yeah, and then I'm pretty sure it's obviously an Alua behind it for sure. Whether or not that was supposed to be shown or not, I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely Alua. So it'd be a pretty safe assumption that May is Alua.
Yeah, and that Fang playmat pretty saucy too.
Yeah, that's Australia only though. I think the playmat.
Man, I would love to have playmats like that around here. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Crystal Club playmats are pretty sweet, but yeah, like we don't have any kind of store championship here yet.
We'll get to that point, I'm sure. But otherwise, last piece of news, I kind of briefly talked about it. Tampa's in 2 weeks. So if you're going, I hope you're testing, hope you're getting yourself ready because, there will be – it's going to be the Wild West, man. There's going to be a lot of wild decks that you got to think about. There's a lot of avenues you got to cover. So I really can't wait to see what people bring. And I am extremely happy to be in the booth for this one. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Like, I mean, I'm testing my stuff. I'm not really testing in particular for Tampa, but it's like – I wouldn't know what to expect, to be honest. And so you'd have to either play it really safe or be really comfortable with whatever you've built, and maybe try to catch some people off guard. And the fact that I'm pretty sure it's still top 32, even though there's no draft, so a lot of things are going to be able to squeak in there. So I'm going to feel really bad if someone gets the 1 seed and loses to the 32.
Oof.
That wouldn't feel great. But I mean, good luck to the people that are trying to figure that meta out because it doesn't exist yet. So, and you got people coming from different scenes, so their meta's going to be pretty different too. I mean, you're going to see the typical things for sure, but you're going to see some wild stuff for sure too, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And to kind of coincide with that, I just want to kind of touch on it real quick. I know each of us is going to be releasing a video in the next week or so. Talking about just kind of doing a deck tech on the deck that we would play if we were actually playing in the event. So be on the lookout for those. That's going to be a lot of fun to record. I can't wait to jump on that. But otherwise, again, a light week on the news. And I know, Tampa's really the next big thing coming up. So we'll see what pops off during this week. And, next week's episode might be – actually, this is a piece of news, I guess. Next week's episode might be a little late because I will actually be in New Orleans with my good buddy Steven Arboleta. So we might have a slight delay on next week's episode, but we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. But otherwise, Adam, any other news, any other headlines, anything hot off the presses, anything you see?
Not that I can think of.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, so let's go ahead and dive right into our main topics this week. Obviously, Opus 8 is out. Decks have been built. Some events have been had, and we've just released our last set review, the light and dark cards, and kind of a set overview in general. I want to thank everybody for watching those and just taking the time to like, comment. We got a lot of comments on each video. I want to say the ice one might be the only one that didn't get any comments on it.
That might be right. I have to look.
But overall, we appreciate everybody checking that out. And I'm sure you agree with some. I'm sure you don't agree. But I will say this: some of the cards I've rated, my opinion has already kind of changed after actually seeing them in action. Not by much.
Yeah, me too.
But I think overall the way we felt about cards initially is pretty spot on. Now, as far as cards we've been really enjoying since the set's been out, Adam, what Opus 8 cards have you just really, really just kind of gravitated towards and just really been connected with?
I mean, the Warrior of Light is probably my number one. I've built probably 30 decks around that card now.
Mm-hmm.
And
they all feel different, don't they?
I'm still not sure what the best one is. I really honestly couldn't tell you. I have everything from ones that could potentially kill you in one turn if you let it go off, to the ice one, which I feel like is pretty consistent and a little bit more stable as far as maybe in a tournament. You could bring that to a tournament and probably succeed. Same with the wind water. The typical wind water one I feel like is pretty good too. I feel like those are the top two for me. I'm not sure which one's better yet. And then then I have one that can infinitely draw your deck, which is pretty sweet. But I wouldn't play that in a tournament. I'm just not sure what you I could draw my deck, but I need to figure out maybe if
what do you do with it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean he's up there. If I had to pick a second card too, just because I'm gonna pick two anyways.
Yeah, do it.
I've had a lot of fun with Death Machine too. I know I rated that card like a 2. I've come higher on the card now. I do think it's actually legit. And it's a lot of fun to play. The thing is, I do feel like if it ever gets to the point where it's just out of control, it's gonna be really easy to counter it. But it is a lot of fun, and I think it is a real card. So.
Well, and I do also think kind of one of the I guess the kind of segue or kind of harken back to what I just said. A card or a set of cards that my opinion's changed on is Rufus, Reno, and Rude, particularly because of Death Machine. I think they work very well in a Death Machine shell, just because you can almost 2 for 1 or just you can just do a lot of stuff with that package in that deck. So my opinion on Rufus and them have actually come up a lot as well.
Yeah.
So, but as far as cards I'm enjoying, it's no secret. I'm not gonna pick particular cards, but I'm gonna pick packages. The 15 cards, I have just been having an absolute blast with those. I think if you're playing the 15 boys, or I think if you're playing Mono Earth, you're playing the Final Fantasy 15 guys, because they just when they all get out on the board together, it's pretty hard to deal with. You have to find a way to efficiently remove all of them, and because they're so big at that point, you can't really do it without spending a lot more than you had. But then if they're protected by Lyle or Cockatrice, it could just be a blowout.
Yeah.
So I think those cards are a lot of fun. I think Prompto is an excellent card. Every time I start getting down on Prompto and start thinking if this card's worth 6 CP, I have a turn where it's oh yeah, I'd gladly pay 8 CP for this card. So I'm having a lot of fun with those. And Undead Princess, I'm going to give an honorable mention to in that package. That card's really, really good, and I was very unsure of it. Man, if you're playing a Mono Earth thing, that card can just straight up win you games out of nowhere. Just out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think I do think as far as the Mono Earth stuff goes, they are a little susceptible to board wipes because they do need to be together. But you can you can just play Noctis and Gladio, and some decks will have trouble dealing with it. It just depends on the deck.
Yep. So. And so I feel like Ignis is just kind of you almost treat him like a summon almost.
Yeah, you can do it. I think once you get the 3 of them out, you're pretty set. But you just have to be careful once you get the 3 out that if they have a board wipe, it's probably coming.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, it is. And then obviously the other set of cards that's near and dear to my heart is the Final Fantasy VI cards. Turns out Locke is the best Opus 8 legendary. That deck's actually just really, really good. Just being able to get the value off of Locke, just being able to play 2 backups, then play Locke and force the discard. Then if you have the haste enabler, there's a good chance they're pitching 2 cards and taking the point of damage. So the deck is a lot different than it used to be. I think cards like Laswell are just absolutely insane. So those are the two decks I've been having a lot of fun with, and I get to play decks with characters that I like, and they're actually very competent and competitive. So I feel like I'm having more fun with the game than I've had in the last couple sets, and that's a good thing. That's very much a good thing. How about you, Adam? What are your thoughts on Fire Ice?
I think it's solid. I wouldn't give it like tier 1 status, but again, like it's early. Like it's hard for me to really say that for sure. I do feel like it has some struggles. Like Laswell is really, really good as long as you can damage their forwards, right?
Yep.
But like if an Aerith or like a Minwu comes down, he's gonna have trouble, and that archetype has really no answer for that unless you want to play Hades to get rid of Minwu. But you really don't have much of an answer to Aerith other than just swinging at her.
Yep.
It's kind of like Y'shtola in that respect too, and they're the same deck, so I think that's a little rough. And I think that's a deck that you will definitely see. And for that to be your rough match, here's the thing though. I think going into Tampa, it's like if you bring a deck you're comfortable with, you also have to be comfortable with the fact that you're not gonna just win everything on paper, because everything's gonna be so all over the place. It's gonna be impossible to tech your deck to win every matchup. Even like the decks that you expect to come, there's gonna be ones that are just gonna beat your deck on paper.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's just something you're gonna have to like accept. So like, while I think Fire Ice does have trouble with like Mono Wind or decks with those cards that I mentioned, there's a chance you could go to Tampa and not play those cards. Like, I mean, that's just as likely.
Absolutely. So I think that's a great segue to what we really want to kind of dive into. Let's talk about predictions for Tampa. So I think, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I do think Fire Ice will definitely be there, because right now, if you look at a lot of the like events that are happening, Fire Ice is all over the place right now. It's winning out in California. It's winning in Washington and Oregon. It's very, very much doing well on the West Coast. It's doing well here on the East Coast. You even see it being played down in Florida as well. So I feel like if you're going into Tampa and you have a deck built, you need to be able to fare well in that matchup, and I feel like you need to be comfortable in it without sacrificing other matchups.
Right.
So I think that's my first piece of advice to anybody going. Have a deck that can do well against Fire Ice, but without sacrificing other matchups.
I think you just need to, like, when you're building your deck for Tampa, at least for like in where the current state where it is now, it's like you want your stuff to be generally good rather than like don't run silver bullets, I guess is what I'm saying. Like I feel like they're gonna bite you. If you try to run like a silver bullet to beat like one or two specific things. We don't have a sideboard in this game, so like those cards are gonna just be dead in some matchups, and it's like, like for I'll use a card that we've been hating on as an example, like Arden, right? Arden is really good against some colors, really awful against other colors. So like you could play him because you're just like, oh well, maybe I'll run into like a bunch of mono lightning and I'll play Arden and they can't do anything. But it's like, what if you don't? Yeah. So it's like I think you want to build more toward your own game plan than build to other people's decks, unless there's just a card that if it hits the table you can't beat it. Then maybe you have to start thinking about like, well, how can I answer this without making my deck crap?
Exactly. And with that being said, what do you think? So there's going to be a top 32 cut, which is really hard. Like, that's once you get past like really like, I'll even go as far as like top 8, like even like 8 through 16 sometimes can start getting a little wacky. But you get beyond top 16, it is the negative zone. It is no man's land out there with whatever kind of decks it could be. Because depending on the way it works, you could have an X3 make it in, or
Well, you definitely will. X3s will definitely make it in.
Yeah, you could even go as wild depending on how the top stacks up. There could be like an X4 in there or something really, really wild. Depending, the math could check out. I highly doubt it because I think the number of people are going to be there, and I'm sure there will be an undefeated at the end of the day. So, but the chance is there.
Yeah, a lot of decks in this game can make top 32 in a tournament. A lot.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
And when I say a lot, I mean like a shit ton. Like hundreds of decks can make top 32 in this game. Like no lie. I think a lot of decks could potentially make top 8 for the most part. I mean, if you look back at previous tournament results, even when meta was pretty defined, like you would still have some outliers every now and then, and they'd be pretty different. So, and this is even going to be even weirder because like the meta doesn't exist yet, really. I mean, we know what old stuff is good, but that old stuff has to be ready for the new stuff. And it's I don't know, it's just not that easy. I mean, you're going to see a lot of the old stuff too, with just like one or two new cards. Because I wouldn't blame anyone for doing that.
No, not at all. Not at all. If someone took Windwater YRP and just threw like Athena in there, I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah, I don't even know if you have to change a card in that deck. You could probably still do well.
Yeah,
honestly.
You could literally like cut. You could, if you're not running Cecil, you could easily go like 2 Barts, 1 Fina, and still probably feel great at a tournament.
Yeah.
But with that being said, as you start diving a little bit deeper into what top 8 could be, what decks do you think are what am I trying to say here? What decks do you expect to see, and would you be surprised to see them, if that makes sense?
I mean, if I was going, I would be 100%. I mean, Mono Wind would be the #1 deck I'd probably expect. I think it's got like the most easy to just put in improvements. It got better, which makes no sense. You still have access to all the some of the best cards in the game. I mean, you're consistent because you're a mono deck. Like you don't have to worry about like really terrible draws and having to worry about color fixing, and you just does everything. Obviously, though, the thing you do have to be worried about if you bring Mono Wind is like, I'm pretty sure 90% of the people that are going to this also expect the same thing. So you have to expect that people are going to be looking at that deck too. And again, like there's not a whole lot of tricky stuff you're going to be doing in Mono Wind. Like I say tricky, I mean like stuff that people won't expect. Like
Mono Wind is a very the lines are very simple. If that makes sense. I
would say there definitely can get like some trickier stuff when you start when you both players start throwing down Diaboluses and you got your Stolas on the board. But like what I just mean like the cards you're gonna see, like I mean I just don't think there's much experimental room in Mono Wind anymore. I mean like you could put some cards in if you just want to have fun with it, like, but I wouldn't recommend it for like a Crystal Cup. Like,
no,
you know what I'm saying? Like if you want to put, I don't know, I'll call you. I guess I'll call you up for like a second. If you want to put Balthier in the deck, you know,
huge mistake. He does nothing for the deck.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely nothing.
Exactly. Like it's also just because they're just better cards. I mean, as much as it sucks to say, you know, it's just how it is. And I feel like the list is very, very tight now. At least the one I've been testing. I don't know what. I mean, maybe there's a few things here or there where you could cut 1 or 2 cards off, but I feel like the core of the deck is going to look very much the same.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and then
that's a deck you can't get cute with.
Yeah, and then after that, I would expect to see a pretty good amount of Mono Lightning, for sure.
Yep.
And that's a deck though that I feel like everybody's is going to look fairly different.
No, I agree with that too.
I mean, it's an archetype you're definitely going to see, but like numbers wise, it's going to be really hard to know what to expect. I mean, I think some people are going to be running Sakura, some aren't. You're going to see some that have like 3 Estinians in it, some aren't. You might see ones that don't have Al Cid in it. I wouldn't recommend it, but I mean, people have been doing okay with it.
Sometimes the threat of Al Cid is just as good as the card because people will play around that. Like they'll feel real bad leaving up and acting forward, you know?
Yeah, it'll be a little bit worse for you in top 32 when people can see your list if you don't have Al Cid. But in Swiss, yeah, I mean, as soon as they see purple cards, they have to play around it. So.
Yep. And that's why I still stand by my prediction that I do think Mono Lightning will win Tampa. But what's crazy is that that's such a weird pick because there's, like you just said, there could be like 7 to 8 different ways to play Mono Lightning. You just don't know.
I'll tell you, there will be one constant in every Mono Lightning list that I can 100%.
Lua?
3 Alua in every list. So, other than that, like, I don't even know if I can really guarantee another card, as much as crazy as that is.
Absolutely. Like, I don't even know if I can even guarantee, like, Sid Previa at this point.
You can't.
Some decks run it, some don't.
Yeah, some are running it, some are. I guess the only other card I could maybe guarantee. Hold on, let me think.
Probably a 3CP Ramu.
Yeah, Ramu. 3 or 4. I think they both are. Even if you're not running Zapped, I think you play both of those cards. I really do.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
like, those cards are just too good. And I think, while we're talking about Ramu, that's a good segue into monsters. Monsters are going to kind of once again be the wild card at this thing. Will we expect monster decks? Will we expect somebody playing like some kind of Melt Gemini deck? Will there be some kind of crazy, lava spider aggro nonsense? Like there's like monsters are kind of a wild card right now. And I also say this: I really hope your deck has answers for monsters.
Yeah. So here's the thing about. I said at the beginning, right? Where like you have to be worried about like silver bullet cards.
Yeah, because what if you miss all the monsters?
Yeah, exactly. Like you could be like, oh, I'm gonna run both Alexanders. I'm gonna play like all this monster removal, and monsters aren't gonna beat me. Great. All your matches are mono wind and mono lightning. Like have fun.
Exactly.
So it's like you can play these cards. I think the thing is gonna be. There are some cards that just happen to also be good against monsters, and those are going to be the cards that shine more, I think, like Ramu. But the problem with Ramu is, like, now, if people are playing these 3CP and plus monsters, Ramu ain't hitting that. So, I think
that's why, to kind of spoil the video I'm going to record, I would 100% bring Mono Earth to this event with the 15 guys, because I feel like you have a card in the deck that's just innately good against monsters, just in general. Doesn't matter the cost.
Yeah, it's tough though because it's an S. I mean, if you hit it though, it's really good. But I mean, it's even though it's kind of cheap on the card, it's like still kind of expensive at the same time.
It's 3 CP break a monster.
Yeah,
is what you're paying.
Yeah.
So,
but you are losing a forward that you probably would want to play at some point. I think.
And that's the only downside. But thankfully, like in that color, you have a ton of recursion, so it doesn't feel as bad. But still, it's something you have to do, and it's one of those things that if you don't run into monsters, you've really lost nothing, because the card, like you said, it just kind of has built-in monster hate in it, and it's a card you're already playing, and that's the kind of stuff you need to have in your deck. Stuff that has that just kind of dual functionality.
Yeah. I mean, even when 3-color monsters were good and people were trying to hard target it, sometimes you wouldn't run into it. It was the same thing. Like, but the problem back then is there wasn't a lot of accidental monster hate cards like Ramu. They just didn't exist then. And now I feel like a decent amount do. So you have cards that you're already playing that just happen to also deal with the monsters that they're playing, and I think those are the cards, like I said, that will shine. Because I mean, it's going to be hard to really say if everyone's going to be bringing these high cost, like 3+ cost monsters, and do you really want to put cards in your deck just to deal with those? Yeah,
and that's where again it's just really being prepared for as much as possible. But I think you also hit it on the head when you have to kind of go in with an expectation that you may run into something that you're just going to flat out lose to.
You have to. I mean, for one thing, it's a card game, right? There's a lot of variance. It's just, you have to, when you play a card game competitively, you have to accept variance. You just do. Sometimes you can't win every game. It's impossible. You can play your best 100% of the time, and you will still lose sometimes. It's just how it is. It's the same with matchups. Like you can't. It's impossible to cover every matchup. When the meta gets more defined, you can cover what you know, but there's still some chance that you play another guy that's like trying to outthink the meta, and he brings something wild, and it just happens to just dumpster whatever you're playing. That could happen. So and the same can be said, like you could play a matchup that's really terrible for you and just draw really well, and your opponent doesn't, and you win. Yeah, that could happen too. So I mean, I think, like I said, that's why I'm saying, like, be comfortable with your own game plan. I think is the best thing for anyone going to a tournament this early in the meta. Like, you have to be comfortable with what you're trying to do instead of trying to be comfortable with what everyone else is trying to do. You just have to be aware of interactions and stuff. I think that's.
I agree with that. Now, do you think there's going to be any breakout cards From like, if you had to pick like a couple, like just kind of spitball a couple that you think are going to be like this thing's really going to like shine at this tournament. This thing is going to, which could potentially cause like price spikes and things like that. If you had to pick a couple cards you think that are going to just break out and perform at this event, what do you think they're going to be?
I mean, it has to be, you're saying like new cards, like the open cards?
New breakout performers or and I guess I'm kind of turning this into low hanging fruit. Any older cards that are going to perform very well because of the new cards. I'll just go ahead and put it on the table. Lock is definitely one of them because of cards like Edgar.
Yeah, Lock definitely saw improvement. I think Mion is really a lot better in this set.
Which one?
Mion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think if you're playing mono wind, or even just wind X in general, I think you should look at Mion. She ramps you really hard now because of the new 4 CP backup, which I still think is a really insane card. I know one card I think I said was like a little overrated on the review, that I think we'll see a lot of play and do good things is the new Alexander. I still think people are going a tad over crazy with it, but I've been running it as like a 3 of, and it's been really good. So
absolutely.
Again, that depends. Like the meta could change, and then it could be worse. But sometimes like breaking a Miner or a Devout is really, really good. Sometimes just breaking a Yuri is all you need to do. The fact that it has flexibility, it also hits the like 4 and more monsters, which isn't too much other than like Death Machine. But you're not playing that to kill monsters. It's like one of those cards where it's like I'm playing it to kill 4C plus forwards mainly. If I hit backups, that's really good for me. And if I hit monsters, cool. So, but it's not gonna hit a ton of monsters unless you're playing like 4+. So,
no, I can agree with that. I think if I had to pick a couple breakout cards, I legit think Rufus is probably going to be a breakout card at this event. I think that card, especially like when you read it on paper, I know we mentioned this too in our review that we kind of get blindsided by it not being like a full on like Turks package. But that with Reno and Rude, or specifically Reno, it can be pretty good. It can be pretty powerful and kind of swingy. So like, I know that's a card that you've kind of messed with a little bit. Just overall, it's a much better card than I initially thought because you can just do so much with it, and it comes into play with the intent of dying.
Yeah, I mean it's. I think I mentioned it a little bit on the review video that we had. Is like the only thing that saves them is Rufus and Reno, and you just like the fact that you're just swinging up and then using Reno to basically deal 8k to an active with Rufus out. The thing that stops that, and a card that I know I'd be looking at this card if I was playing in Tampa, and that's the Heroic Una.
Yep.
A lot of stuff.
That was actually on my list as well.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that like we're talking about. The Turks being main ones for sure. Removed from the game, like he's just a 5k.
Yep.
He doesn't do anything else. Reno is only going to deal 3. Because he has to hit the break zone as well. It stops things like Veritas of the Dark, where like I feel like people are playing that now. That's a card I definitely underrated too. The more I've like messed with it, the more I've played against it. If it's played at the right time, it can be very annoying. But when you play H Una and you can turn that thing into just a one-sided Fanfrit for 6, that feels pretty good.
Yep.
Because I think the thing that makes the card really strong is if you play it and they have one forward on the board they have to kill that forward. And then on the way out, they probably are going to like let a backup go, or they're forced to play another forward that they want to lose. I think that's really good.
Yeah, having H Una back in the fold really is going to allow for a lot of. It's a good counter to a lot of things, if that makes sense, right? Because all the recursion, like that good safe recursion that Earth has, even Fire Ice has a lot of recursion these days with the Setzer backup. I think being able to kind of negate a lot of that stuff, I think definitely helps. So I would expect Una H to maybe have a breakout performance this weekend, or we finally start seeing her kind of come back into the fold. And that's hard because rare Una is still really, really good. Yeah,
I think it's deck dependent, right? Like it's hard. I think mono water, a lot of people still want to play the rare Una, and I get that. It makes your stuff cheaper, and 2 CV Fanfrits are still really, really good. But like sometimes if your opponent lets you build up, like if people are playing slower decks, which you have to kind of make that call, then I think H-Una, like if you have time to play her, it could be really good.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think another card that you're going to see a lot of, and I think, well, what am I trying to say? Because I don't know. I guess I've one that I'm kind of on the fence about. Because then I want to go into like duds, cards we think that are just that we think are really good, but I think that are just going to be duds. But there's one that I'm still like right in the middle of the fence on. That's actually Rain, Light Rain. I think it has the potential to be a breakout card, but I also think it has the potential to be a total flop in Tampa.
Yeah, I've been playing it a little bit in Water Lightning.
Mm-hmm.
It's been pretty good. I think if you have easier ways to haste it, it gets more dangerous. And so in that deck, I've been running Red Mage, and you just get the 5 backups, and you play him for 3, and then you hold up a Red Mage and a Lightning backup, and you just haste him.
Yeah,
you don't even need the S at that point. Like and he's tutorable in that archetype. So
yeah, so I think he's a good card. I think it's one of those things that people are going to be expecting it. So they're when they see the backups you play or the cards you play, they're gonna be like, oh, Rain's definitely in that deck for sure. And then you're just gonna kind of be left out in the you're gonna feel bad when you try to play that thing and they're just like, nope.
Well, the sweet thing is in that deck he's an 8K, so. Yep. It's a little bit harder to deal with. He's a 3 CP AK in that deck that's searchable, and you can easily give him haste.
Yep, absolutely.
I think that's where he's going to shine, really. But I think you want to run all those cards I just said.
Yeah.
In order to make him
absolutely
shine.
You do.
I think if you just try to dump him somewhere else, I think he's fine in Mono Lightning too. Again, because all those cards are Lightning cards that I just said, except for Avelia. That's the only card that's not Lightning. So he's still a 7K in Mono Lightning, but I think he's pretty good there too.
All that. And I think if there's any card that I think there's going to be some cards that are going to flop. I think the new Zidane, the 2 CP Zidane, I think that card is going to be a flop in Tampa if people are playing it.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to say. I think it's still really strong.
Oh, I do too.
And I think, like, against Mono Wind, they don't have a lot of good early answers. Like, if you're expecting a lot of Mono Wind, I think Zidane can do well there. But Mono Lightning, there's just so many things that answer that card if you try to turn one Zidane. And like I said, the later you Zidane, the worse he is. I mean, like, you still have to deal with him, but, like, when it's like turn 5, 6, 7 plus, like, he's way easier to kill than turn 1. But if you play like turn 1 Zidane and Mono Lightning plays like turn 1 Black Mage, like you're pretty far behind, I think, at that point.
No, for sure. Now, is there a card you think that's going to flop hard this weekend, or is there maybe one or two you're on the fence about, not sure?
Flopping is hard to say. I mean, I guess like when you say flop, you just mean like it just doesn't, like it's a card that we think is pretty good, but it won't show up in 32.
Yeah, or it just won't have the impact that we think it will.
I don't think Warrior Light's going to really show up. I feel like not a lot of people are talking about it. And the issue with the card is, like, I still think it's really, really gross. And if there's ever a world where you can play him and protect him in the same turn and then just go off, a lot of times you just win the next turn. But I do think that deck's going to take time to develop because it's kind of a combo deck. It's kind of what it is.
Oh, for sure.
And we haven't really had like a real combo. Like Dodaluma Cactuar is like the closest thing we've had to like a combo deck in this game. There's really no like OTK combo, kill decks in Final Fantasy. I guess if you want to count like the infinite draw loop, like the stuff Matiski tried to do, but that stuff in tournament, like the problem is same with Warrior of Light is if you kill Warrior of Light or if you manage to kill these other things, it kind of stops the loop, and then that just kills the whole combo. And I don't think a lot of people are going to be playing that card. And maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I want to see everybody playing the card because I still think the card's really dumb. But I think it's going to take time. And I don't think you're probably going to see any in the top 32. But I'd be pleased to be wrong.
Oh, absolutely. How about something you're maybe on the fence about that you could see it go either way?
I mean, Warrior Light's kind of right there too. But I'm not sure. I guess Dark Fina. I'm kind of on the fence about that card. I think she's really good. I just don't know who's going to be playing her. Like even these Fire Ice decks that people are doing good with, I haven't really seen Dark Fina in the lists and that seems
she
to
shows
be...
up in a couple, but like nothing. It's weird. It's only like maybe 1 or 2 copies.
Actually, yeah, I think Garland is probably like one I'm on the fence about. Like I think an early Garland, it's kind of like Zidane. An early Garland is really good. The later you play Garland, though, the worse he gets. And he's also small. And he's not as oppressive as Zidane because Garland can sit there for 2 turns, 3 turns, and you can win. Zidane sits there and hits you 2 turns, like you're not winning.
Correct. Correct.
So.
Yeah, I think Garland does have a lot of upside, and again, like you said, he's a card that you want to drop turn 2, and really it messes up your opponent's curve. That's really what you're trying to do at the end of the day, because they won't be able to go 2 drop back up, curve into 3 drop back up, because without having to overpay for it, which is kind of where you want them to be, because then you can just freeze that other backup, and it really keeps setting them back each turn. But I think the card's really, really solid. Again, he is small, so he gets hit by almost every piece of removal out there. But sometimes all you need is to be slowed down, so that card could be good, but I could also see it just straight blowing up in your face, too.
Yeah, I've been playing with Sid Randall. It's been pretty fun.
Yeah.
It makes it even more awkward, because if they try to play a forward, like if you're able to get both of them out, they can't play a forward to Dull, to Garland. It forces them to keep kind of dulling their backups unless they want to pay 1, which is essentially the same thing. So the only thing with the freezing is you have to be able to have that open CP to freeze stuff, and I don't think you're going to be freezing a lot of stuff early game unless it's really essential, because you wanna be able to build your stuff up while they're behind, and you can't do that while paying 1 every turn to freeze like the stuff that they're dulling. The thing that will mess with Garland, though, is monsters that don't do anything. Because I can just dull them every time. It forces you to have to pay 1 to freeze the monster to force me to pay with something else.
At that point, it just kind of takes some of the shine out of what you're trying to do with Garland.
Yeah, so like if I play a Death Gaze or something and then you play Garland, I'm just going to keep dulling my Death Gaze.
Until you freeze it, but then you open up the rest of my resources that I want. But overall, man, I think if I had one last prediction, I think, I said Mono Lightning I think is going to win the whole thing. I think Alba and Diana are going to be a big part of that. That's my last prediction. I think the deck that wins is going to have Alba and Diana in it.
Yeah, see, I think the best Mono Lightning deck probably doesn't have either in there. As crazy as that is. I think the cards are good. It's just hard. I think making a 50-card Mono Lightning deck right now is actually pretty hard.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
You have a lot of decisions, like, I think one more thing. I think the deck that people are forgetting about is Scions.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That deck is still real.
Warriors of Darkness go very well in that deck too.
Yeah, I don't even think you play Warriors of Darkness in that deck, but I think that deck is still real. I think I've actually come around on the Thancred backup. I think that card is good. I think it actually replaces the Thancred forwards. Interesting. And I think you run Alphino forward, so now that the Thancred kind of replaces the Lightning that you had with Alphino. I think you play for Adola, for sure. I think you're playing Alua. You're probably still playing Wool. I think Jake is really good in that deck. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it changes a little bit, and I think it's still really strong. Well, there it is. So, do you think a Scion deck is going to sneak into the top cut? Yeah, I think so. Okay. Yeah. I don't think it's that. Like I said, I don't think it's that hard to sneak into top 32. Yeah, it really isn't. You're not sneaking at that point. You're opening the door and just kind of walking right in. Yeah, I think as long as you're comfortable in what you're playing and you're pretty confident and you have a decent day, you can make top 32. You don't need to have you can make mistakes and make top 32, I guess is what I'm saying. Oh, for sure. But also, too, we did learn, and there is no draft at this one, correct? This is all constructed. All constructed at this one. All constructed. So at least you don't have to worry about potentially, doing well, squeaking into top cut, and then just even if you do well in draft, you could potentially not make it in. Here it just goes straight top 32 bracket style. You should have to worry about going undefeated, though, and then playing fucking Uncle Buckles, whatever, the guy that got 32nd, his deck name, and then losing. Gramps.deck. Yeah, so. Oh, man. How wild would that be if the scrappy 32 seed
ended up winning the whole damn thing. Get your bracket busters out now, boys.
Be pretty wild.
Though I do think carbuncle decks. I know you kind of said the Uncle Bunkle. That's what we call it around here. I think carbuncle decks you'll see some of. It'll probably be more attuned to like the Prince version from last season. I also think you'll see people, just because they want to play them, you'll see a bunch of Final Fantasy decks, Final Fantasy 7 decks. You'll see all Final Fantasy decks.
I think you'll see some Final Fantasy decks, yeah.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 7 decks.
Yeah, I don't think they're that good, sadly.
Yeah.
I've tried a bunch of stuff, and they're just
I know for a fact you'll see them. They will be there.
They're just so fair. That's the problem. They're like really fair. They don't really do anything. Like, unless your opponent lets Barrett swing multiple times, they're not really doing anything that unfair.
And then you probably feel bad if you're playing cards just to haste Barrett.
Yeah, I mean, it makes Barrett basically 7 CP at that point. Just to swing with him. And then if he dies after you haste him,
feels awful.
Yeah, it's rough. I do think they're fun, and they can snowball.
But we'll see, man. Even with all these predictions, man, we could be completely wrong. It's going to be, I know I'm going to have a good time calling the shots in the booth, because there's going to be there's going to be so much to see, and there's going to be so much to talk about, and there's going to be just so much. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see what kind of spice that like people are working on in secret because I know there's people that have something that maybe they're not sharing because they want to they want to keep that close to the chest because they want that world spot, and I definitely don't blame them. So I can't wait to see what kind of wild stuff we get to see while we're calling the shots. But otherwise it's any man's game. Give us a comment. What on whatever platform you're listening to. What kind of predictions do you have for Tampa? What do you expect to see in the top cut? What kind of wild Gramps.deck jank do you think you're going to see? Because again, a lot can happen, and you can sneak into top 32 and could easily ride your way to victory. But
yeah, can we change the name to that deck to Elderly Man Tribal? I feel like that.
Elderly Man Tribal. There it is. Yikes!
Sick deck.
I love it. I love it. Anything with Gramps is okay with me. But or you could run just a deck with a bunch of old minute. Like you can use him. You could use like Asmodai. Just whatever. Strago.
Gallif.
Gramps.deck.
Gallif.
Oh man, we're getting into 5-color jank territory, and I love every second of it. I dig it. But otherwise, Adam, any parting thoughts this week?
No, I don't have anything. It's kind of a not too much of a news heavy week, I guess.
Yeah, super light week, but we're always here. We're always here to give you guys the goods. And like I said, be on the lookout this week for the videos of just the deck text of the decks we would play at Tampa if we were actually on the competing side as opposed to the commentating side. So, be on the lookout for those in the next couple of weeks. And I have nothing else to say, and I guess I can sign off. I can feel good signing off with that.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with it.
Yep. So a tip of the hat. Guys, thanks for listening as always. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you later.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening once again to the RVA Returners podcast. If you like this content and you want to hear more, check us out on YouTube at RVA Returners, and make sure you follow us on SoundCloud and check us out on Google Play and iTunes.